सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
So after having explained the concept of Karma Yoga, now Bhagavan takes up Jnana Yoga. Because to practice Jnana Yoga, mind has to be purified. The purification of mind is done through Karma Yoga. So what is the fundamentals of Vedanta? So yesterday we were seeing the whole world can be divided into two. What are they? Consciousness and matter. What is matter? Anything that is made up of 5 elements, it is called as matter. So this world is matter, body is matter, mind is matter, intellect is matter. There is only one thing which is not matter. What is that? Consciousness, which is me, myself. Now what is the mistake I have done? By the way, what are the properties of consciousness? Though it has no property, but there are some indicators. So what are those indicators? 15 we had listed. Consciousness is, first one, Sat. Sat means what? Existence. What kind of existence? Not a borrowed existence, not a limited existence. It is independent, absolute existence, which knows no non-existence. Sat also means truth. That which is absolutely true. Abadhyatvam satyatvam. That is how it is defined. That which can never be negated at any period of time is called truth. In our Shastras, everything is properly defined. What is truth? Abadhyatvam satyatvam. That which will never become absent, that which is ever available for experience is called truth, which can never be denied. So how can we say consciousness is absolute truth? In our own experience, we will find it. Consciousness is the only one thing which remains in all the 3 periods of experience. In the waking state also it is there. In the dream state also it is there. In the deep sleep also it is there. In the waking state it is there. For this we need no proof, we know it. I am conscious of the waking world, isn't it? So in the light of consciousness, the waking world is seen. So what does it mean? Consciousness is present in the waking state. What about dream state? In the dream state also, I am conscious of the dream world. Yes or no? I am conscious of dream experiences. What does it mean? In the light of consciousness, dream experiences happen. So therefore consciousness is present in the dream state also. What about deep sleep? Now here we say I was unconscious. No. You were conscious of nothing. Isn't it? So what is our experience in deep sleep? I slept well, I knew nothing. isn't it? So if this experience of sleeping well has to take place, I slept well. Who knew? I knew. How did you know? You were conscious of sleeping well. Isn't it? I knew nothing. Even to know that nothing, someone has to be there. An experiencer has to be there. This ultimate experiencer, the ultimate witness is this consciousness. Isn't it? If I tell you, go upstairs and see who is there. So you go there and come down and say, no one is there. Even to see no one, you must be there, isn't it? No one is there upstairs. Means what? I, who was present, I came to know that no one is there. So in the same way, in the light of consciousness, I come to know in the deep sleep that there is no experience. There is nothing. So therefore you will find in the waking state also consciousness is there. Dream state also consciousness is there. Deep sleep state also consciousness is there. In fact, these three are nothing but mental states. What is that substratum which supports these mental state? It is nothing but consciousness. Therefore it is called Sat, truth. Just like the snake and the rope. Every moment the snake we are seeing, but why is it that we are seeing snake? Even that illusion makes itself present because there is something called real. There is a reality because of which you are seeing an illusion, isn't it? Whenever an illusion is seen, understand there has to be something real because of which that illusion is seen. So there is rope because of which the illusion of snake has taken place. So in the same way, this consciousness is that Satvastu upon which the illusory waking, dream and deep sleep experiences are happening. That is why it's called Sat, existence. What is the second one? Chit, consciousness. Chit also means the knowing principle. That principle because of which I am able to know. I am aware. That awareness is called Chit. Chit also means the sentiency giving principle. That principle because of which the inert elements appear to be sentient, appear to be alive. It's called as Chit. And the third one, Anand. It's of the nature of bliss. It is of the nature of contentment, of joy, of peace. Sat, Chit, Anand. The third one, fourth one, Anantaha, Ananta Surupa. Anand means infinite. Only that which is infinite can be really peaceful, blissful, contented. Limited things cannot be absolute bliss. If there is absolute bliss, then it has to be linked to infinity. So this consciousness is infinite, Anantaha. Then fifth one, Achalaha, that which is infinite cannot move. Where will it move? It can move only from where it is to where it is not. Now since it is infinite, it cannot move anywhere. Therefore it is called Achalaha. Fifth one. Sixth, Nityaha, it is eternal, ever present. At the same time it is unchangingly eternal. So therefore Kutasthaha, seventh term. That which remains unchanging, but that which supports all the changing things. Everything in this world is changing. What is that substratum upon which, remaining which, these changes take place? This unchanging substratum is this consciousness, Kutasthaha. Then 7 over 8th one. Can we experience this consciousness through the senses? No. Therefore, Agocharaha. You cannot see it, hear it, etc. Through your 5 sense organs of knowledge, it is not possible to grasp it. So therefore, Agocharaha. Okay, fine, senses cannot grasp, but what about mind? Can it grasp it? No, it is Achintyaha. It is unthinkable. Even the mind functions because of consciousness. You can be conscious of thoughts, but you cannot think of consciousness. That which is subtle supports the gross. This is the rule. Gross cannot support the subtle. It is always the subtle which supports the gross. Consciousness is the subtlest. It supports thoughts which are gross. So therefore at the seat of meditation, I am aware that the thoughts rise. I am aware that the thoughts are present. I am aware that thoughts vanish. So thoughts are nothing but ripple in consciousness, we can say. The substratum is consciousness alone. So that is achintya. Fine, it is achintya. Can we describe it? No. So therefore anirdeshya. It cannot be described because it doesn't have properties. It doesn't have gunas. Any guna can be described. A property of a thing can be described. Property in the, like for example, color. It is red color, it is blue color. Or the taste, the smell, they are all the properties. Or the feelings, they are all properties. But since it has no property, it cannot be described. So therefore, anirdeshya. At the same time it is aprameya. What is aprameya? That which doesn't become an object of knowledge. It cannot be known as an object. It has to be known as the subject. Isha darshanam swa atma rupataha. Upadesha sara. How to know God? You cannot know God as an object. You will have to realize God as the very subject. As I am this. You can never know it as this is God. Now you may ask, in Puranas etc. there are Mahatmas who see God, talk to God, pray to God and all that. That is not the ultimate vision. No doubt that vision has come because of a pure mind, because of lot of sadhanas, because of lot of upasanas. So there also the mind is actively present, though the mind is pure. A Jesus worshipper will not see Krishna. He will see only Jesus. A Krishna worshipper will only see Krishna. He will not see Rama. What does it mean? The training which you have given to the mind, that very same mind projects that reality in that form. So it is nothing but the mind only which that person is seeing. His own mind. No doubt the mind is pure, therefore such visions happen. We are not criticizing it, but ultimate vision cannot be objectified. It cannot be an object-oriented vision, because ultimate experience necessarily implies absence of mind. And when the mind is absent, you will not be able to see any vision. What remains in the absence of mind is the truth. And what remains? It is pure consciousness. It is a self. So therefore it is called as aprameya, that which cannot be known as an object, because it is the very subject. So that is the 10th term, right? 10th or 9th? 11th. Okay. Now what is the next one? Sakshi. This consciousness is the ultimate witness in each and every one of us, witnessing everything. So now the question is, can you cheat God? You may cheat police, you may cheat government, you may cheat Supreme Court, but can you cheat yourself? Never. The one who has done a crime, a mistake, he knows it. Remember, any thought has to rise in consciousness. Consciousness is aware of it. Maybe as an ego you may not be aware, but consciousness is aware. So therefore Bhagavan becomes karma phala data, because he knows everything. Therefore he gives what one deserves, not what one desires. Right, so that is Sakshi. Next one is Atma. Atma means the very self, the very I. Who is this consciousness? Who is this God? This God is none other than the real I in me, the highest truth is nothing but my own true nature, my own higher nature, the very I which I every moment experience. The only thing is I don't know what this I is. I think this is this little ego. It is not this little ego. Little BMI, that is what we have misunderstood this I as. This I is none other than God. In fact, you have to just meditate upon this term, that this I is God. Sometimes it is called as ahangrahopasana. Just hold on to this I and with total faith that this is God. Then you will find your mind becoming purified very fast. The moment a negative thought comes, will you dare to entertain that negative thought? No, because I am watching. What does it mean? God is watching. So at the thought level itself, you are given a warning that somebody who is supreme is aware of it. So at the thought level itself, if you can correct your mistake, then it will never seep into action. In this world, the laws are very clear. If you do good, good will come to you. If you do bad, the same bad will come to you. Now, do you want to have good experiences or bad experiences? Is there anyone who will say, I want only bad experiences, I want sorrow? So the simplest thing is, do good to others. Think good about others. Be good, do good. Then all good things will come to you, because that is the law of nature. Understand these fundamental laws and keep this in mind, that this I in me is God. This is enough. So that is Atma. What is the next one? Akarta, non-doer. He doesn't do anything. This anyway later on we will see in detail. And since he doesn't do anything, he is Abhokta. So we have 15 pointers. They are called as pointers. So at the seat of meditation, you have to take one of these pointers and meditate upon it. How will you meditate? You have to meditate as, this is me. This is the way of meditation. This is the highest meditation. Bheda bhavanat sohamityasau bhavana bhida pavani mata. Which text? Upadesha Sara. Bheda bhavanat saha aham. Meditation keeping God different from you is inferior. Meditation considering yourself as God is superior. Saha aham meditation is superior than I am different from God meditation. Meaning Advaita meditation is superior to Dvaita meditation. Saha aham, he is me. Now for doing this meditation, your mind has to be pure. That purity comes through Karma Yoga. Right. Now this is consciousness. So yesterday I was saying this consciousness is perfect. My real nature, I have nothing to crave for if I really meditate upon this real nature. What do you need in life? Happiness. It is already there. What do you need in life? Security. Freedom from the fear of death. It is also already there, because you are Sat. You are existence itself. You can never die. So whatever you crave for in life, it is already present in consciousness. But what is the mistake we have done? The mistake we have done is, instead of identifying with this consciousness, we have got identified with something other than what we are not. And what is that? What we are not? Body, mind, intellect. Now what does the identification theory say? When entity A identifies with entity B, the properties of entity B appears to be the properties of entity A. So now I as consciousness, When I identify with BMI, the properties of BMI appears to be my property. Remember, it is appears. It is not becomes. It is only an appearance. It is only a wrong notion. So now, I, the infinite consciousness, now what am I thinking after identification? I am this limited body. Now what is the biography of body? Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, nashyati. It exists, it is born, it grows, matures, decays, dies. This is the biography of all the bodies. Will I be happy with this state of mind? Never. Because you are Ananda Swarupa, and here is a body which is Dukkha Swarupa. Janma is painful, birth is painful. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. This is what the body is. Birth is painful, death is painful, old age is painful, disease is painful. Sometimes union with some people is painful, sometimes separation from some people is painful. Isn't it? Lot of pain is there. Why this pain? Actually, this pain is only because of identification. Everything about the body is something which cannot be accepted. It is not joy giving. It is only pain giving. Body's capacities are limited, talents are limited, abilities are limited. Why does jealousy arise? Jealousies arise because of identification. Somebody is performing better than you in the same field. Now you are jealous. How will this knowledge help you? The moment you have this knowledge, you know, I am consciousness functioning through this body. He is also consciousness functioning through that body. Bodies may have ups and downs, highs and lows with respect to abilities, talents, etc. That is not my property. Once you disidentify with this body, once you disown the body, once you start paying attention to consciousness, all the negativities of the mind will vanish. Anger, greed, jealousy, competition, frustration, discontentment, everything will vanish. Isn't it? What all things people do in order to become happy. And once you have this knowledge, you can only laugh. In this world, you just read newspaper and laugh. What all things people do to appear young. Dyeing the hair, injecting so many chemicals so that others will not see the wrinkles. To appear young. How foolish. Body has to grow old. Wrinkles have to come. Why do you want to stop it? Why is there a sense of non-acceptance? Why can't you cheerfully accept old age? A person who is ignorant of the fact, of the truth, he will try to hold on to this perishable body. And the more you hold on to it, more miserable you will become. Because someday or the other it has to perish. Isn't it? How much miseries people undergo when one by one the talents go away. Because as you grow old, you have been once upon a time very famous for a particular ability of yours. Whether it's a sports person or whatever. As you grow old, what happens? The abilities go away and they don't want to leave. But the body has to wither away. Then they go through lot of misery, lot of pain. It is all because of ignorance. So what is it that we are supposed to do? Remember, any beautification of the body will not solve the problem. Because what are you seeking in life? You are not seeking little happiness. You are, from the depth of your heart, you are seeking infinite happiness. By improving the body, you are not going to get infinite happiness. Improving the mind or the intellect, developing the talents or abilities, the strength, concentration power, etc. Again, you are not going to be infinitely happy. How much ever you improve the BMI, it has got its limits. That doesn't mean that you should not improve. Nothing wrong in developing your talents, etc. But don't seek fulfillment in your equipment. This is the point. Nothing wrong in improving it. What is wrong? If there is a body, make it healthy. What is wrong? Exercise daily, keep it healthy. Nothing wrong. But don't seek fulfillment in that state. Keep an eye on the reality. A day will come when the body has to grow old. It will have lot of disease. Shariram Roga Mandiram, it is called. It's a very abode of disease. As long as you are young, you will not understand this. But as you grow old, each and every joints will start creaking. They will make their presence felt. Then you will come to know, oh, I have been given such wonderful gift. I never realized. Then you will think 5 times before bending down, before sitting, etc. Because everything is a big project then. Sitting is a project, standing is a project, walking is a project, isn't it? Once upon a time you were never even aware of it. Then slowly age catches up. Now a person who has this knowledge of the truth, he accepts even old age and the old age problems cheerfully. Memory loss, it is natural. You accept. Yes, there is memory loss. There is hearing loss. You accept. No problem. So this cheerful acceptance comes only when you come to know who you are. So what should be your knowledge? I am consciousness with a body. That should be the knowledge. At present, what is our understanding about ourselves? I am body. I am not even aware that something called consciousness exists. In my ignorance, I think body, consciousness, they are one and the same. Maybe the body is alive, therefore it is conscious. This is the way we have understood. Body is alive, therefore I am conscious. And this consciousness is inside the body. Okay. So you have perfectly made this consciousness a limited entity depending upon this perishable body. So what is there to meditate upon? There is nothing. Even if you close your eyes, at the most what will you do? You will observe your breath. That's it. What will you meditate upon? So this knowledge of scriptures, it is very essential. So what are we supposed to do? The problem is self-ignorance, therefore solution is self-knowledge. How will I gain self-knowledge? First of all, let us understand what is the mistake I have done. What is the mistake I have done? Identification with BMI. BMI means body, mind, intellect. Identification is the problem, so therefore what should be the solution? Disidentify. Bas. Now such a person who has disidentified with the body from the body, such a person is described in verse number 13. What does it say? Sarva karmani manasa sanyasya dehi vashi sukham aste. Navadvare sukham aste. So here is a knowledgeable, what you call wise man, abiding in consciousness. Where is he seated? It is said, Navadvare pure aste. Sukham aste. Happily he is seated. Where? In a city of 9 gates. He is seated in the city of 9 gates. Which is the city of 9 gates? Our own body. He is a Mahatma. Vashi. Vashi means he has kept all his body, mind, intellect, everything under his control. A master of himself. Now he is seated. Where is he seated? In the city of 9 gates. Now what are those 9 gates? This body is considered as a city. So a city will have a wall, isn't it? Which separates it from the outer world. So as far as his body is concerned, the skin is that wall, which cuts off the city from the outer world. Skin. Now in the city, gates are also present. What do you do with the gates? Gates are the points where the city interacts with the outer world. Correct? In the same way, what are the gates through which we interact with the outer world. So there are 9 gates. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, genital organ, anus. Total 9. Navadwara. So these are the holes or gates through which we interact with the world. Entry or exit points. Now, what is this Mahatma doing inside the city? Manasa Sanyasya. Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya. Manasa Sanyasya means with right understanding. He has given up all actions. Sarva Karmani Sanyasya. He has given up all actions. How? Manasa. By right understanding. Now he is Aste. He is seated. How? Sukham Aste. Absolutely blissfully seated. Naiva kurvan na karayan. Neither doing nor instigating others to do. Compelling others to do. This is the definition of a Mahatma. Meaning what? Consciousness is one aspect. Matter is another aspect. Who are we? Consciousness. The moment consciousness identifies with BMI, Jiva is born. The moment consciousness is identified with BMI, body, mind, intellect, who is born? Jiva is born. Till then, there is no Jiva. There is only Ishvara. Consciousness is God Himself. When is this individual born? Jiva, individual, ahankara, all these are synonymous terms. Ego, individuality, they are all synonymous. So when is this individuality born? The moment consciousness identifies with BMI, the individual is born, Jiva is born. The moment identification happens, the actions of the body appears to be my actions. Actions of the mind and intellect appears to be my actions. So then I say, I am the doer, I am the feeler, I am the thinker. Actually, what is thinking, what is doing? Body is doing, mind is doing. But what do I feel? Because of my identification, actions of the body becomes my action. Then Karta is born. Doer is born. Till then there is no doer. Are you able to understand? Actions are done by the body. Consciousness lends sentiency to the body, no doubt. But it is not the consciousness which is doing. It is the body which is doing. But because of identification, what do I feel? This action is mine. Karta is born. Once Karta is born, then there will be karma, then there has to be karma phala. Karma phala has to be enjoyed by Karta himself. This Karta becomes Bhokta. So Karta is born, karma phala is born, karma is born, Bhokta is born. So samsara is for whom? Samsara is for the ego. Ego means what? Consciousness identified with BMI. Now what has this Mahatma done? Naiva kurvan. He doesn't do anything. Meaning what? He has disidentified himself from the body. Disidentification, remember, it is a mental function. It is not committing suicide. Disidentifying with the body means committing suicide. No. Identification is a mental function. Something like that film example. Yesterday we had seen that. Film theatre example. The moment you identify with the character of the movie, you go through the mood swings, isn't it? Now there, identification is mental. Mind related it is. It's not physical. In the same way, I have identified with the body, it is a mental function. It is a notion of the mind. So what has this Mahatma done? He has disidentified with the body. Through right understanding, manasa sanyasya, see that term, sarva karmani manasa sanyasya. Actions are happening at the body level, but according to this Mahatma, I don't do anything. Earlier this term has come. Which verse? Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvit. Look at verse number 8. I don't do anything. I, the pure consciousness, don't do anything. All actions are happening at the body level, mind level, intellect level. Then what are you doing? I am mere presence. I am mere being. So this Mahatma abides in the state of being. In his presence, things are happening. This point is made clearer in verse number 14 and 15. What is being said? Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu. Prabhu, here Prabhu is consciousness. He doesn't create kartrutvam, doership. Na karmani. Karmani means, karmani normally means action, but in this context, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji writes commentary, here karmani means karma phala. The object of the verb is called karma in Sanskrit grammar. Aham pustakam pashyami. Aham is the karta. Pustakam is the karma there, the object of the verb. Verb is pashyami. I see the book. So book becomes karma. So in that context, karmani here means karma phalas. So Prabhu, the consciousness, doesn't create karta, doesn't create karma, na karma phala sanyogam. He doesn't bring the karta with the karma phala. Then who decides all these actions, results, etc.? Swabhavastu pravartate. What does it mean? Let us take an example. Electricity. This example we had discussed earlier also. Electricity. What does electricity do? It just energizes. Energy giving principle is electricity. It is the equipment which decides how to use that energy, isn't it? A bulb gives light. Why does it give light? It is the nature of the bulb to give light. The fan rotates. Why does it rotate? It is the nature of the fan to rotate. This is called swabhava. Swabhava means nature. So each electrical equipment functions according to its swabhava. Energy giving principle is electricity, no doubt. But how this energy has to be utilized, it will depend upon the nature of that equipment. In the same way, sentiency giving principle is consciousness. But how will that body act? How will that mind use this sentiency will depend upon the nature of that body, the nature of that mind and the intellect. So each one of us, we have our own nature, isn't it? That nature is the nature of the body, mind, intellect. It is not the nature of consciousness. What does consciousness do? It just lends sentiency. If consciousness is not there, body will not be alive, mind will not be able to function. Sentiency means life-giving principle. So this consciousness doesn't create karta, doesn't create karma, doesn't create karma phala, etc. What is that which produces all this? Swabhava. It is a nature. So he doesn't become karta, he doesn't become bhokta also. That point is present in verse number 15. Na datte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukrutam vibhu. Here vibhu also, again it means consciousness. Na adatte, it doesn't take what? Papam. Meaning it doesn't become bhokta, the enjoyer of papa karma. Na chaiva sukrutam. Sukrutam means punyam. Consciousness is unaffected by the papa and punya of the BMI. That is the meaning. So these two verses indicate the akarta abhokta nature of consciousness, which is the 14th and 15th principle. So what does this Mahatma do? He just pays attention to consciousness. He is just in the state of being. Now one may ask, Swamiji, if we remain in the state of being, who will do my responsibility? So many responsibilities are yours. See, you have to understand what is this abidance in consciousness. Abidance in consciousness means you are in tune with God. Abidance in consciousness means there is no more ego. What does it mean? The will of God becomes your will. Means you are fully tuned to the rhythm of this cosmos. You have no will of your own. Whatever actions come through that body, mind, intellect, those actions will have a signature of the divine. Why? Because the ego is not there. Paying attention to consciousness means it is an expression of the greatest devotion for God. Paying attention to consciousness means the end of karta, the end of doer, the end of ego, the end of individuality. Isn't it? The moment you disidentify with BMI, what does it mean? It means you have awakened to the state of your own true nature, meaning you have become God. God realized person. Consciousness identified with BMI is ignorant man, the jiva. Consciousness disidentified with BMI is none other than God Himself. So the moment you are paying attention to consciousness, the moment you abide in consciousness, what happens? The mind is at peace. You experience bliss because that is the nature of consciousness. And in that blissful state, whatever actions happen through your BMI will be actions which will promote peace and harmony in the world. It will have to be dharmic. Because now you are not functioning, it is the divine which is functioning. Now there is no one to revolt. The actions are not vasana prompted actions. Normally there is this will of the individual and will of God. Many times it clashes. The moment you pay attention to consciousness, the will of the individual is no more there. Then what remains? Only will of God remains. This is the meaning, thy will be done. Bhagwan, I am not there at all. It is the highest form of devotion. Abidance in consciousness is the highest form of devotion. So at the seat of meditation, what are you supposed to do? Bring the mind to this consciousness. Suppose your mind is wandering. What does it mean? You are no more interested in consciousness, you are interested in the world. Because world expresses itself in the form of thoughts. So your mind is wandering means you are interested in the world. Which means you are not interested in God. Which means you are a samsari. Which means you are not a sannyasi. Isn't it? Pujya Gurudev has written a beautiful commentary on Ramayana. Commentary means symbolic meaning of Ramayana. There is a book, Symbolism in Hinduism. A beautiful way. So Sita in the forest, as long as Rama was the highest priority for her, everything was fine. Even in forest, she was very happy. Isn't it? But a time came when she was interested in the golden deer. And then what happened? She was no more interested in Rama, she was interested in golden deer. Now they are all symbolic. Who is this Sita? None other than the individuals like us, Jiva. So as long as Jiva's attention is upon God, Rama is consciousness there. Everything is fine. Difficulties are also fine. You handle it with smile. But the moment Jiva's attention goes to this golden deer, what is this golden deer? Remember, a deer can never be golden. If a deer is appearing golden, what does it mean? It is not real deer. Isn't it? It's an illusion. What is this golden deer? It is nothing but this wonderful, attractive world. The world of senses. So now what happened? Sita was interested in the golden deer. In the Ishavasya Upanishad it is said, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya apihitam mukham tattvam pushan apavrno satya dharmaya drishtaye. There is a prayer. O Lord, you have covered the lid of truth with Hiranmaya patra, with the lid of gold. Please remove it so that I may see the truth. So the whole world is so attractive that your senses are going outward. Paranchi khani vyadranat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyate na antaratman. The world is so attractive that always your attention is outward. No one searches within. Kaschid dhiraha, very, very rare few. Pratyagatmanam aikshata avrta chakshuhu amritattvam icchan. Very rare few look within and then they gain immortality. So in the same way, this external world of attraction is so much, Gurudev used to say, every attraction in this world is a distraction. Because it takes you outward. It will not take you inside. So what happens to Sita? For that split moment, she was interested in the golden deer. Bhagavan became a means to achieve the goal. Till then, Bhagavan was the goal. When golden deer became more attractive, Bhagavan became the means. Isn't it? Such a bhakta is called Artha Bhakta or Artharthi Bhakta. He is not a jnani. So then what happened? The rest you know. She was taken away by Dashamukha Ravana. Who is this Dashamukha Ravana? 10 faces. They are nothing but our 10 senses. Pancha Jnanendriyas and Pancha Karmendriyas. She was taken away by Ravana. And now she cannot remain with Rama. The moment your attention is upon the world, you can never remain with God. Because in the heart there is place for only one, either Rama or Kama. You have to choose. Isn't it? So then Ravana takes her. Where? Away from Rama. But then she understood her mistake. She started chanting the name of God, fully paying attention to the Lord, not at all interested, showing any interest in Ravana. So therefore, she was in the forest of Ashoka, Ashokavana. What is Ashoka? Ashoka, no sorrow. So as long as her mind was in God, in Rama, there was no Shoka. Though she was staying in the materialistic Lanka. Lanka is nothing but materialistic world. Represents materialistic world. So even in that materialistic world, she could remain without sorrow. Why? Because her mind was in God. So as the devotee seeks God, God also has to come to the devotee. Thus Rama comes in order to save her. Then she had to go to Agni Pariksha. What is this Agni Pariksha? Till the last moment you will be tested. Are you really desiring God or is there some desire for the world? This is Agni Pariksha. Even you have 0.000%, 001% desire for the world, there is no liberation. You cannot make Rama yours. You will have to be born again to fulfill that desire. This is Agni Pariksha. Once somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, Swamiji, when will I be liberated? Swamiji told, come with me. He took him to a river and pushed his head underwater. Swamiji was very stout and very powerful. And this fellow started grasping for breath. And after some few seconds he took him out. He said, Okay, inside water, what was your only desire? He said, no, my only, desire was to get breath, to breathe. Even that question that when will I get liberation, that also I forgot. In the same way, when you desire God, underwater you were thinking only of how to come out, isn't it? In the same way, when you desire God, you will be liberated. Meaning single pointed. When the desire becomes single pointed, that will be the time when you will gain liberation. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, this thread, you want to pass it through a needle. He says, even if one string sticks out the thread, you cannot pass the thread through the needle. You have these fibers. Even if one fiber comes out, you will not be able to pass the thread through the needle. In the same way, even if one desire is there is no possibility of moksha. This is called Agni Pariksha. Are you desiring world or are you desiring God? Even if you are desiring God, how much percent? Even if it is 99.99, you are not eligible. When it becomes 100%, you pass Agni Pariksha. Then where do you go? You go to Ayodhya along with Rama. What is this Ayodhya? The place where there is no Yuddha. Yuddha means conflict. Yuddha means tension. Disturbance of mind is called Yuddha. So Ayodhya means the place where there is absolute peace, absolute happiness. See how beautifully the symbolism of Ramayana has been brought out by Gurudev. Very nice book. So in the same way, there is this consciousness, there is this BMI. Identify and become miserable. Disidentify and awaken to your higher nature. Uttishtata jagrata prapyavaran nibodhata. Kathopanishad. Uttishtata, arise. Jagrata, awake. Not from the bed. Arise, awake to this great truth in you. Iha cheda vedit atha satyamasti nachet iha vedit mahati vinashti. If you know this truth, even while living, you are the most blessed. But if you ignore this truth, because you are so preoccupied with the world and the worldly responsibilities, and keep this aside saying, after retirement I will see. Mahati vinashti is a big loss. Because what are you missing? You are not missing small little, you are missing infinite for the sake of finite. There was once this indulgent king living a life of luxury, of irresponsibility. So one yogi came and he called the king, Mahatyagi, Mahatyagi. The king got up from the seat, prostrated to this yogi and said, Swamiji, you are Mahatyagi. How can I be Mahatyagi? Yogi said, No. I have given up the world in order to seek God. You have given up God himself in order to seek the world. So who is Mahatyagi? Your renunciation is far bigger than mine. I have only given up this small world for the sake of infinite God. You have given up the infinite itself. Isn't it? For the little petty paltry pleasures of this world. So you are Mahatyagi. So in the same way, let us not become Mahatyagis. Try to gain this knowledge as early as possible. Work hard. Surely you will gain it. And even if you have not gained it, in the next birth, you will start from where you have left. There is no question of effort being lost. No. Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. The one who has put forth effort One who has cultivated that kind of sadhana samskara, all those samskaras won't be wasted. In the next birth, you again start from where you have left. Whatever you have studied, it just becomes a revision for you. And then you start. So therefore, no effort is wasted. So the whole point is, don't be careless with regard to this knowledge. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफल संयोगम स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. This consciousness just lends sentiency to the BMI. The BMI functions according to its nature. There are so many examples given to make this point clear. One example I had given, fire example. What does the fire do? It is just there. If you ask fire, oh fire, are you cooking? What will fire say? I am just in my state of being. What is the nature of fire? Giving heat. That giving heat is not some effort. It is just happening. Lots and lots of food is being cooked, but if you ask fire, what are you doing? Fire will say, I do nothing. I am just in a state of being. See how relaxed fire is, though it is cooking so much of food. In the same way, each and every one of us can be relaxed. It's an art. There's a knack of doing it. Tremendous amount of work gets done through you if you know this art of relaxation. The best form of, the greatest service to the world has been done by such relaxed people only. Because when you are tuned with the divine, infinite knowledge starts flowing through you. And that happens only in the ultimate state of relaxation, not in a state of tension. So on one side you are relaxed, on the other side the world is blessed. What a wonderful thing, isn't it? Abide in the state of consciousness and let the infinity take over. Just flow along with the flow, like flowing along the river. When you flow along the river, is there any stress, strain? No. Just flow. But suppose you want to go against the current, then it is difficult. In the same way, when you abide in consciousness, you are with the flow. There is no tension, there is no worry. Wonderful action starts happening through you. In the mere presence of consciousness, BMI functions. Just like in the mere presence of a king, court, that royal court, many things happen, isn't it? Sometimes dance happens, sometimes music happens, sometimes scholarly discussions happen. All the court activities happen in the presence of king. Is the king doing anything? No, he is just there. He is very important because without him nothing will happen. This is one example given by Shankaracharya ji. He is just present, everything is happening in his presence. Or like the mirror, it reflects everything. Now is there an action involved? No. Why? Reflection is the nature of the mirror. It doesn't have to do anything. It just have to be. Or like the sun, when the sun rises, different activities happen in the world. A lotus blooms. Naiva kurvan nakarayan means sun is not making the lotus bloom. Lotus blooms in the presence of sun. Isn't it? The ice melts, the water gets evaporated. All this just happen according to their nature. Sun is not doing anything. In its mere presence, things happen. In the same way, in life also, we must try to apply this. How do you apply? How to apply? You have to say, in my presence, plannings are going on in the mind, actions are happening in the body. This consciousness is God. I am a mere instrument of God. Every moment when you are remembering God, actually you are abiding in consciousness. In the language of devotion, I am a mere instrument of God. God is functioning through me. Both are one and the same. Now through Karma Yoga, he has already practiced it. Therefore, this is not difficult for him. We find it difficult because this karma yoga itself is missing. The preparatory stage is missing, therefore we think it is impossible. Here is where the purity of mind is necessary. Purer your mind, easier will be abidance in consciousness possible. If purification is not there, thoughts and consciousness appear to be mingled. You will not know which is thought and which is consciousness. As the mind becomes more and more pure, you clearly feel consciousness on one side, thoughts on the other. Distance between consciousness and thoughts increase with purity. The example given in our Shastra is like that dried coconut. When you just, shake the dried coconut, what happens? You see one kada 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 sound, isn't it? What is that? The inside coconut is separate from the shell. In the tender coconut, it's all one. So a Mahatma is compared to that. In the same way, the consciousness and thought becomes totally two different things. With purity of mind, you attain this state. And then what happens? There is total relaxation. Sannyasa sukham aste. Vashi sukham aste. Navadware pure. Now Shankaracharya raises a very interesting question. So it is said here, the wise person lives in the body. So the question is, not only wise, even the otherwise. The ignorant people also lives in the body only, no? This question is raised. So Shankaracharya says, yes, the ignorant people also live in the body, but they don't know this. They live as the body. That is a mistake. We normally say, I live in this city, in this street, in this house, but nobody say, I live in this body. What do we say? I live as this body. This is the difference. Wise people live in this body, the otherwise live as the body. This is the difference. That's a big difference. A nice question is raised there. Right. So therefore, knowledge has to be gained. More of it we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha